Shri Shri Ras Vihari Niju Ki Jai. Pratishori Seva Trust. Reading Shri Hari Raiji's Bade 41 Shiksha Patra, Day 68, Letter 26 verses 9 and 10, and Letter 27 verses 1 to 5. Salvation Uncle Jai Shri Krishna. Verse 9. A woman involved in an illicit relationship takes great delight in meeting and talking to her lover's messenger, in the very same way your love for the Lord will swell when you keep company with his accomplished devotee. Tika. Conversations and meetings with the beloved's messenger increase the passion of the illicit lover. In the same way your love for the Lord will increase when you meet and talk with a great devotee. The messenger talks in many ways about passionate subjects, and so desire is kindled in the lover's heart. When a firm devotee speaks about the Lord, their love for him will be filled with divine passion, and your heart will begin to feel that divine love. Therefore, always keep the company of such pure devotees who adhere to the path of grace. Verse 10. The heart and mind of a lady in an illicit love affair are never focused on her domestic duties. In the same way, if you want to be surrendered to the Lord, you should pull your heart and mind away from the worldly home and fix them on him. A lady involved in an illicit love affair does not focus her heart and mind on her household duties, but rather always elsewhere on her lover. Similarly, an accomplished devotee's heart and mind are fixed on the Lord's form. When such a devotee's mind is singularly surrendered to the lotus feet, they are not really interested in household duties or worldly and scriptural wranglings and complications. They are then exclusively attached to hearing the Lord's pastimes and to serving him. Carrying on now to letter 27, which has 18 verses and is called The 40 Obstructions. Translator's introduction. This 27th letter probes deeply into the nature of refuge in this path of grace, clarifying the devotee's position in both their worldly and devotional involvements. 40 obstructive impurities are listed, examining every last detail of an embodied soul's behavior. Index and introduction. Letter 27 addresses the problem of forgetting the Lord. The age we live in is such that it destroys everyone's intelligence. Practices are never successful. Instead, the three impediments to our service to the Lord are perfectly in place. Still, refuge in Shri Acharyaji's lotus feet can grant us the fruition of our spiritual practices, so we should never give up hope. In the previous letter, it was described how those surrendered to the Lord are not interested in worldly affairs. However, the obstacles to fruition of one's service are still present, and they need to be avoided. What these are and how to avoid them is the subject matter of this letter. Verse 1. When you surrender fully and constantly to Shri Acharyaji's lotus feet, you will effortlessly achieve all the spiritual rewards. Tika. A Vaishnava devotee on the path of grace should always take refuge in Shri Acharyaji's lotus feet. This will bring them, through the grace of the Lord, all devotional rewards without resorting to any specific practice. Verse 2. Worldly home, attachment to said home, seeking fame through worldly and scriptural acts, focus on action and reaction, and desire for heavenly reward all contribute to your forgetting Shri Krishna. They will be detailed from here until the 11th verse. Tika 2. There are 40 obstructive impurities on the path of grace, which are the main ones out of many. When they are renounced, fruition of the path of grace is perfected. They are now listed. The first major contamination is pride of wealth, which blinds the embodied souls, for they can then count none as their equal. If you have wealth, you should offer it up to the Lord and use it to serve him, whereby you become his servant. The second obstruction is the worldly home. When you think you have put it together or that it belonged to your father, this is the sense of possession that is the problem. The third is attachment to said home, being attached to the many household duties all the time, counting what must be done from day to day. The fourth is the desire for worldly and religious fame. Here you may plan to become famous through certain deeds. If your competitor does 5 such deeds, you will plan to outdo him with 10. You may also seek fame through the performance of religious acts such as ancestor worship, marriage, or sacrifices, displaying how much you do and seeking fame thereby. The fifth is to place your belief in and solicit reward from good deeds, daily prayer rituals, worshipping the deceased, fasts and regular disciplines, etc., etc. The sixth is to desire to go to heaven through such acts and hoping to enjoy many pleasures there. These are all obstacles to the true fruit of the path of grace. Verse 3. Excessive worldly affection, desires that are contrary to devotion, attachment to worldly affairs, and enjoying good food for the sake of sensual pleasure. These are all obstacles. Dika. The seventh obstacle to devotion is having excessive affection for worldly relationships such as wife and children, holding theirs as the highest type of love. The eighth obstacle which blocks the fruition of the devotional path is hankering after worldly sensual enjoyment. The ninth is attachment to such worldly affairs. The 10th is always wanting to eat very fine foodstuffs. Vaishnava devotees make fine food preparations solely to serve the Lord, and they appreciate that food when partaken as the Lord's grace. But demanding lots of ghee-laced food for the sake of sensual pleasure is a great obstruction on the path of devotion. Verse 4. Pride in your body, pride in your family clan, pride in your knowledge and nourishing your body without making service to the Lord. Tika. The 11th obstacle is devotion. To devotion is obsessive pride in the body and constant tending to appearance, always brushing the hair, looking in the mirror with self-praise. The 12th is pride in the family, considering one's birth to be very high and that everyone else is inferior. The 13th is thinking oneself to be very knowledgeable and well-read and regarding everyone else to be fools. This attitude totally blocks humility. The 14th is occupying one's day in endless worldly and scriptural duties, not performing one's service to the Lord or even wanting to do so. Like when a so-called Brahmin fails to recite his Gayatri mantra, then his Brahminhood recedes. In the same way, if a Vaishnava does not perform service to the Lord, then that state of being a Vaishnava is reneged, and this is a huge obstacle on the path to devotion. The 15th is when one obsesses over the nourishment and health of the body. There is not even a trace of tolerance of heat and cold, and endless efforts are made to keep the body safe through the use of medicines and potions, only for the sake of worldly activity, without any awareness at all that the body should be properly maintained simply for the purpose of being able to serve the Lord. Verse 5. Remaining enduringly corrupted through bad association, partaking of foodstuffs that have not first been offered to the Lord Sri Krishna, failing to inquire into the meaning of one's mantra of dedication, and forgetting to surrender are all obstacles on this path of devotion. Tika 5. The 16th is keeping the company of immoral people who have turned their face away from the Lord. A moment of this kind of association can totally defile your love for the Lord. A lot of it will turn you away from the Lord. The 17th is neglecting to partake of the food offerings made to the Lord and instead to eat what has not been offered. It is written in the Padma Purana, if you eat without first offering to the Lord, your forefathers will all suffer in hell for many years. Food prepared by non-devotees and sinners, and which is not offered to the Lord, is equal to dog meat. In the Kurma Purana it is stated, eating that which is not first offered to the Lord Sri Govinda and without any moral consideration is like eating dog feces, and drinking water in the same way is like drinking alcohol. Eating unoffered food is a huge obstacle because it destroys the intelligence. The 18th obstacle to devotion is not bothering to understand the self-dedication one has made. You know you have dedicated yourself to the Lord, but if you do not investigate and thus try to truly grasp the concept, for example, of the 5th syllable prayer of surrender, then this is an example of the 5-syllable prayer of surrender, then this is a hindrance in your devotion. The 19th is forgetting your self-surrender, that you have taken shelter in Sri Krishna, especially when you forget the 8-syllable prayer that embodies this surrender. So we'll pause here today from today's readings and continue tomorrow on day 69. Continue with letter 27. Aaj ke aanand ki jai ho, apar jai ho. Shri Ras Biharini Ji ki jai, sab Vaishnavon ko sadar, sanand, saprem aur sadenya. Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Jai Shri Radhe.